British developers speaking with Veritoufer. Some insight into the uncertainty has formed within studios and among developers over the last 2.5 years since the Brexit decision. It's important to stay mindful around media and how fellow devs across the pond feel about latest Brexit developments, since any updates to the dual code affect game devs in the United Kingdom and established game companies like Sony are moving away from the United Kingdom to other European countries, minimizing their British presence and likely lessening the appeal for business and potential hires. Even investors are shying away. A few of my team, when I was at Improbable World Nationals, they were not a dominating presence, but those guys were brilliant, says Nick Barton-Brown, chairman of Outright Games. They brought in such great skills and they taught everybody else. They shared their knowledge and everybody was better from working with really good people. He goes on to explain. But they came because it was easy. They did not have to do any visas. Then look, they could come over. Then look, they could go back. Now it's not so easy. Now it's lawyers and doing visas, and it slows it down. And not only that, being honest, they do not feel that welcome. He describes workplace environments in limbo, with fellow developers expressing that they do not feel welcome in the United Kingdom as big decisions loom on the horizon. In addition to being cut off from acquiring new talent, British developers just starting out will also no longer have access to the EU startup grants, which helps fund United Kingdom studios. This will likely affect indies the most, as they might not have the same resources that larger companies have when it comes to dealing with the cost of business increasing and the lack of funding to provide a safety net. The guys that made Overcooked, 2 of them sitting in their lounge, working full-time. Is it going to make their lives a bit harder? They have a United Kingdom publisher, so they are alright, Barton-Brown says. But the next ones may find it harder. The people who are doing the next Overcooked, they may struggle because of this. Barton-Brown offers some advice to combat the climate of fear, encouraging United Kingdom devs to let the EU nationals on their teams that they are appreciated. Make it clear that we do love them, that we want them to stay. We want them to carry on helping us make great games. Capcom says the demo for its upcoming remake of Resident Evil 2 was downloaded over 3 million times since it went live on January 11th. The demo itself has an interesting quirk, dubbed the one-shot demo, the short slice of Resident Evil 2 gives players only 30 minutes to make their way through the enemies and puzzles in the game's early level. Once that 30-minute run is over, players cannot start the demo again on that same account. The downside to that limitation, however, is, inevitably, players quickly found ways around it that likely have inflated that 3 million download figure. Console players can make additional accounts to get a second, a third, or fourth shot, while PC players have found ways to trick the demo into allowing additional plays. Another interesting read on the demo comes from data shared on Capcom's Resident Evil Net website. Of those 3 million downloads, roughly 2.5 million players opted to enable Ringnet's play data tracker and help gather more data on the demo's completion. For instance, only about 26% of those 2.5 million players completed the demo within the time limit. This post that originates from the site Narrative Construction contains no spoilers. But if you hold a belief that some designers are mysterious and that their games are magic, I would advise thinking twice before deciding to read the post. The title, Parting into Play, is inspired by the term mise-en-scene, which means parting into the scene, put on stage. The term had its origin in theater, and was later picked up by film scholars as to have a way of referring to the practice of directing, planning and controlling the elements for the desired effect on a stage or in a frame of a film. Since the term isn't established in games, but where the concept could provide an overlook of the stylish elements that are to be organized and arranged in the creation of a film, my intention is not to put a new term into play. What I will put into play are the thoughts that precede the choice of elements that are to become the parts of the desired form of an engaging and dynamic game system. This isn't the first time in propelling thoughts as mean to show how the initial thoughts matter to the construction of a concept. But what differs, putting into play, from the former 24 posts, where I have used propellers, radiators, grandmothers, contract killers, Cinderella's shoe, and even Walter White's underwear, as a mean to describe the narrative, from a cognitive perspective in construction of an experience, is that I will, from now, leave the old analogies. The cause is due to a 7th-grade model of causal thinking, Grattan-Firth, Lombard, 2017, that explains how our thinking and understanding works. As to be more precise, it shows what is going on inside the head, which make us act and react. So from now on, due to the shift in approach, if you would like hands-on advice regarding game-specific elements associated with the narrative, according to how the roles and responsibilities are currently sectioned on an organizational level in the industry, on writing plot summaries, quests, narrative branched choices and conversation systems, I recommend reading the writer and narrative designer Alexander Frey's blog here, on Gamasutra here, to explain what I mean by putting a thought into play, and how the initial thought matters to what is to become a game. I will take an example from an interview with the writer Dan Hauser from 2010. Link to the interview is here. When he describes the initial thoughts that preceded the making of the Wild West open world game Red Dead Redemption 2010, developed by Rockstar Studios, the core idea of the game to make a fast-paced shooting game with the sensibilities of a fighting game was very interesting, and was done really well. But we love open-world games, and in finishing Red Dead Revolver, we also fell in love with the Wild West. The main thing we wanted to keep and expand upon from Red Dead Revolver was the core sensibilities of the gunplay, which we all really loved. The rest, we wanted to start over and make a game that was vast and epic in scope. Since Red Dead Redemption 2 has recently been released, one can see how the initial thoughts that were put into play 8 years ago have evolved. From the old concept to Red Dead Revolver, from 2004, with gunplay as its core mechanic, the thoughts to make a game that was vast and epic in scope has reached a new level. What this means is that Hauser and his team has given the open world game vast and epic in scope a new meaning. And for you who haven't played the games, the new meaning that has been given to the second game was not only to make the world map bigger. What the team did was to move into the details of the game by letting their thoughts give depth to as many objects as possible, giving each a unique mechanic, which created an even more dynamic world compared to the first that met undo epic in scope. Red Dead Redemption 2, Rockstar Games. To understand how our thinking works when taking off from a thought towards the desired outcome, I'm going to take help from the 7th-grade model of reasoning, which is based on the evolution of causal cognition, and where causal cognition is described by Grattan-Firth and Lombard, 2017. A. To predict outcomes based on observations. B. To affect and control events in the world around us. and C. Ultimately, to predict causes from effects, even if the causes are not perceivable. Since the grades in the model distinguish with an increased level how the causal thinking of the human work, other thinking, and where the first grades only involve the perception of agency, unless we don't want to explore the agency from that hazard's motor commands when pressing the key that makes the computer start. I will jump the first grade and give you a glimpse of the second. Before we are moving on to the more intriguing grades, the illustrations and descriptions that will be shown are from the post, a short guide to the 7th grade module, link to post, that go to the origin of our thinking started long before the computer age, which explains the theme.